So the camera consists of its body and the lens right here, and the area in the back is open where the film goes. It comes in a tight spool that is inserted into this spool on the right. Then you draw the film across this window and insert it into the take-up spool here on the left. Then it's a matter of advancing the film with this lever until the film window comes to this mark, which shows that it's lined up. So there's this mark that allows you to align the film marker to the 120 or the 220. The 120 just refers to the length of the emulsion, so 120 in this 6x7 format gives you 10 exposures, which is what this is, and then the 220 roll is twice as long and it gives you 20 exposures. Okay. So after the film is properly advanced and taken up onto the take-up spool, it is closed like this. So this is a really heavy camera. It's at least 5 pounds, so it's normally mounted on a tripod so that it's stable, but it also has this huge handle, obviously, which new cameras don't have because they're lighter, which is just for more stability, so something to grab onto so you're not wobbling it around when you try to take a picture. The exposure evaluation occurs through this prism right here. This is a pentaprism with a photocell in it, and there's a little lever right here that you can tap into the on position, and that turns the camera on. In older cameras, they use separate viewfinders to see the image being captured. These separate viewfinders only allow you to see the direction the image is taken and is not as accurate. In this camera's pentaprism design, light goes through the lens and is bounced off the walls of the prism, and the image is projected through the viewfinder, allowing the photographer to see what the lens is looking at. This gives the photographer more precision. You can see this when you look in the viewfinder. It is how you can evaluate the exposure. There's a little indent halfway up that shows you where the proper exposure is. By moving the aperture ring back and forth, the needle moves up and down. So this is all manual. There's no auto exposure capability on this camera at all. There's no aperture priority, there's no time priority, except the film sensitivity known as the film ISO. Little dial right here. You can lift it up and set the ISO, as you can see in this little window right here. And then evaluate the exposure through the pentaprism assembly, and once the subject is composed to your liking and the focus is where you want it, the shutter is right here. And then once the image has been made, you manually advance the roll film through this lever. And that's how it works. Once the last exposure is made, you take it to a film processor. It's called an E6 process. This is transparency emulsion, positive emulsion. So you've got a positive image back and it's exposed. This is Mount St. Helens here. And you can see how, as you look at the film strip, it's the same shot but a lot of different exposures, because when you have a film camera, you don't know what the picture is going to look like when you're taking it, so you take a lot of the same composition with a lot of different exposures to make sure you end up getting a good picture somewhere in there. Now with the introduction of digital technology, digital cameras can be a lot smaller because you don't need to put film in the back. This weighs less than a pound, it's a lot more streamlined and less bulky, so it's easier to use. You also have a big view screen, so you can see the picture you just took in real time. The lens is smaller, but it still has optical zoom capability, and it takes 14.1 megapixels. Although you can take pictures on auto, which chooses the setting for you, you can also set the aperture and light color options manually. For example, you can set the light metering, the colors, the white balance, the ISO speed, and lots of different shooting modes like portrait, night, indoor, etc.